Chapter 5. Curiosity. The first wash of dawn softened everything in Chen Lian's apartment. Pale sunlight slipped through half-drawn curtains, painting the living room in muted gold. Outside, the city stirred faintly. Distant traffic hum, courtyard clatter of someone tending plants. Her space felt warm, lived in, traces of her everywhere. Soft blankets, half-read books, pressed flowers in an open journal. Seminar notes were scattered on the dining table from last night. Pencil annotations, crossing arrows, tiny stars for emphasis, and a light brown coffee ring staining one corner. Her black stage dress hung neatly over a chair, fabric shimmering faintly as the sunrise shifted. Chen Lian curled by the window, teacup warming her hands, untouched. Her reflection gazed back, composed, quiet, gentle. But her mind circled, not to applause, the department head's compliments, or Han Yao's proud thumbs up. To that moment. Near her speech's end, scanning faces, reading the room as always. Then, a gaze. Still, steady, searching. Not hungry, admiring, or evaluative, but focused, blurring the hall for a breath. Strangely grounding. Like a hand smoothing the world's chaos flat. She'd spoken through it, voice quieter, matching its rhythm. She shook her head with a small exhale. Ridiculous. Nerves, stage awareness. She'd barely seen him, seated near the exit, in the upper gallery, another doctor beside. But that quiet intensity clung like faint perfume. She pressed fingers to the teacup's rim, grounding in its warmth. "Get a grip," she murmured. Yet the image returned, eyes searching her way. The feeling not threatening, intrusive, but strangely, inexplicably familiar. The restoration room smelled of old varnish, linseed oil, and paper dust. Sunlight filtered through tall windows, catching every airborne particle like gold specks in suspension. Chen Lian stood over a centuries-old silk scroll, an autumn mountain landscape faded by time. Her gloved hands moved with precise gentleness, brush sliding along a fragile edge, coaxing color back into life. This was her sanctuary, where silence was fluent, where nothing demanded explanation. Behind her, Mei lounged against a counter, flipping through a file. "Chen Lian, your talk went viral on the museum's page. They're posting it on the official channel next week," Mei said cheerfully. Chen looked up, startled, but not flustered. "Viral? It was just an academic presentation." "Yeah, well, apparently your explanation of aesthetic psychology made people emotional. Someone even commented it was healing. Oh, and get this, a doctor from Central Hospital requested the transcript," Mei replied, laughing. Chen froze for half a breath. "A doctor?" Didn't leave a name. Just said he wanted to quote your line about emotions shaping meaning out of chaos." Mei set the file aside casually. "Guess you're reaching the scientific crowd now." Chen only hummed in reply, expression composed, but a gentle warmth gathered just beneath. Her brush resumed its delicate choreography over the silk scroll. "Color organizes chaos into meaning," she whispered, speaking the line absent-mindedly, but her heart replied in soft, warm recognition. Not certainty, not an assumption, just a quiet wondering. Night had already settled by the time Lin Zeyuan returned from the hospital. From outside, the house looked serene, lights soft, windows still. But crossing the living room threshold, he felt it. The air carried uneasy shades of pale green and faint gray. Nervousness, guilt, worry. Familiar emotions from familiar people. Persistent, like background noise, not overwhelming. His father sat upright, expression stern. His mother fidgeted with the edge of her silk scarf. Across from them, his uncle wore that too smooth smile, ambitious eyes calculating behind it. Zeyuan didn't need words. The subtle colors already shaped the answer. He exhaled softly, setting his keys on the glass table. "Please don't tell me this is about the CEO chair again," he said dryly. His father shook his head. "Not this time. We've accepted that you don't want the company. But Zeyuan, you're not a child anymore. You need someone beside you." His mother leaned forward, voice soft, coaxing. "We're not forcing anything. Just one meeting. For my peace of mind." The colors shifted, sincerity in pale lavender, parental pressure in muted amber. Not hostile, just heavy. Zeyuan rubbed the bridge of his nose, gaze drifting. "One meeting, and then no more," he said quietly. His mother's face brightened with relief. A warm peach tone bloomed in the air around her. "That's enough." Before he could reconsider, she lifted her phone and dialed. He didn't ask who it was. He only craved quiet. But if he'd known who waited on the other end, and what color might bloom into his world because of it, he might have stayed. Lin Zeyuan's study lay quiet at midnight, lit only by a single desk lamp pooling warm light across polished wood. Shadows claimed everything else. The digital clock blinked 12:07 a.m. Below, the house slept, save the distant refrigerator hum and rain's soft, persistent tap against the window pane. Zeyuan sat alone, still in his formal shirt, collar loosened. He hadn't bothered changing. The room mirrored him, organized, immaculate, devoid of warmth. Walls lined with medical journals, bound theses, and neatly labeled case files. No photos, no trace of life beyond work. He opened the notebook no colleague knew existed. Its pages held fragments, half-thoughts, unsaid theories. When we perceive beauty, it isn't the object alone. It's the self that responds, the emotion that quietly organizes chaos into meaning. Patient's tone changed when exposed to sudden loss of color. Emotional regulation linked to perceptual filtering. Perception equals burden or protection. He flipped to a blank page. His pen hovered, then stalled. The earlier argument replayed, not voices, but colors. Father's worry is dull gray-blue. Mother's quiet sadness in pale beige. Uncle's arrogance in rusty crimson. Predictable, repetitive. He'd navigated them his whole life. But beneath lingered another shade he shouldn't still chase. White gold. He exhaled slowly, pen turning between his fingers. That color should have faded by now. He closed his eyes. Memory surfaced. The hospital auditorium. Chen Lian on stage, adjusting the mic, her calm cadence weaving aesthetic psychology through the hall. Her words returned with unsettling clarity. When we perceive beauty, it isn't the object alone. It's the self that responds, the emotion that quietly organizes chaos into meaning. It wasn't the content that struck. It was the silence it carved inside him, a rare, impossible quiet. The room's swirling colors dimmed, except hers. For the first time in years, a single, steady hue. He'd wondered, clinically, if this was what focused felt like for ordinary people. He glanced at the blank page. His hand moved before he could stop it. White gold, not absence, equilibrium. Triggered by aesthetic emotional alignment. Observation subject, question mark. He paused. Then, against his own rules, he wrote a name. Chen Lian. The ink sat stark. He stared too long before drawing a line through it, not erasing, but pretending it weighed less. He leaned back. Rainlight scattered across his face. In the quiet, a small tension unfolded. Not distress, not discomfort, but something dangerous. Curiosity. 1:10 a.m. He closed the notebook with a soft, decisive snap. Not for clarity, but because the page felt too honest. The lamp clicked off, plunging the study into hushed darkness, broken only by faint rainlight spilling through the window. His eyes adjusted slowly. Shadows stretched long across the floor, thickening the longer he stared. He stood, smoothing his shirt front as if erasing what he'd written. His steps to the window came slow, drawn by the muted shimmer outside. Rain coated the glass in trembling streaks. Beyond, the city blurred into wet silver blue. Street lamps smudged into halos, cars trailing light, the world motion and haze. He wasn't looking at anything, really, just letting quiet press in. Lightning flashed, bright and sharp. In that split-second frame, the glass caught a reflection. Pale, subtle, unmistakable. White gold. He inhaled sharply, chest tightening not out of fear, but strange recognition. At first he thought it came from the sky, but no. The light traced his cheekbone, shimmered in his pupils like resurfacing memory. The reflection wasn't the world. It was him. He blinked. The after image faded into darkness. Impossible, he murmured, barely audible, as if louder would grant it power. His fingers curled at his sides. Exhaustion, he told himself. Visual fatigue. Overstimulated pathways. But turning toward the bedroom, he felt it still. A faint glow lingering behind his sternum. Soft, steady, uninvited. Even before breakfast, the Chen household hummed with gentle movement. Light poured through kitchen windows, reflecting off wooden counters where Chen Lian arranged fresh flowers, a habit from her art teacher days, always coaxing beauty into life's small corners. Her son, Chen Lian, walked in, rubbing his temples, dressed for work but faintly tired. He froze, seeing his mother on the phone, smiling that familiar, polite way reserved for old friends. He knew that tone. "Mom, who are you talking to?" Before she could answer, the voice floated warmly from the speaker. "Rulan, I'm so glad we finally spoke. It's been too long," Lin Meilin said. Yusin exhaled slowly. Of course, Auntie Meilin, which meant that topic. He lingered by the doorway, pretending to tidy the counter as he listened. Chen Lian laughed gently, wiping her hands on her apron. "I've been wanting to call you myself. Your charity event was beautiful." "That was all the staff. I merely signed the papers," Lin Meilin replied. She hesitated, then added softly, "Rulan, I didn't call just to chat." Rulan paused, a mother's intuition sharpening. "It's about Lian, isn't it?" A breath. Not guilty, not urgent, simply honest. "Yes, but please don't misunderstand. I'm not here to push her or force anything," Lin Meilin said, her voice gentled further. "You know my son. He's difficult to understand even for us. He doesn't open up to too many people." Rulan glanced toward the hallway, and Yuxin's shoulders stiffened slightly. "And you're thinking Lian might suit him?" she asked. "Not because of family status or pressure," Lin Meilin said, firmly, yet kindly. "I just felt they might be good for each other if they ever get the chance to meet properly." Rulan's smile softened. Never once had Lin Meilin sounded calculating, only sincere. Chen Lian nodded thoughtfully. "Meilin, listen, Lian is gentle, but she isn't someone who bends easily. If she doesn't like the man, no one can force her." Lin Meilin let out a warm laugh. "That's exactly why I admire her." Then sincerely, "And I promise you this, if they meet and do not feel anything, it ends there. No pressure, no obligations. I will treat her like my own daughter, not someone we're trying to bind to our family." Rulan's expression softened. The sincerity reached her deeply. That's all a mother needs to hear. Unable to hold back, Yuxin finally approached, placing a hand on his mother's shoulder. "Auntie Meilin." His tone was polite but firm. "Lian doesn't need to be pushed into anything. She's happy with her work, and I won't let her be overwhelmed." A pause, then Meilin's gentle chuckle carried through. "Yuxin, you've grown into such a good brother." Earnestly, she added, "I'm not asking her to accept anything, just a simple dinner, a neutral place. No matchmaking words, no hints. If they talk, they talk. If not, we let them leave." Yuxin's jaw unclenched slightly. "Just dinner." He nodded slowly. "No pressure on her?" "None, you have my word," Lin Meilin replied. He glanced at his mother. She nodded reassuringly. When the call ended, Rulan placed the phone on the table and turned to her son. "Yushin, you don't have to protect her from everything." Yushin sighed, his hand drifting subconsciously to his chest, where the pain sometimes returned. "I know, but she gives so much, Mom. To strangers, to old artworks, to her job." His voice softened, vulnerable. "Someone should look out for her too." Rulan touched his arm gently. "But one day she needs to get married, and it's a dinner. If she doesn't want to continue, I'll stop it immediately." Yushin breathed out slowly, accepting it. "Then, make it look like professional networking." A small tired smile. "She'll never refuse that." Rulan nodded, understanding perfectly. "Good. Then that's what we'll do." Soft pride warmed her voice. Our Lian deserves a meeting that respects her, not pressures her. Yushin finally smiled. For the first time, it felt like this wasn't a trap, just a quiet possibility. Author's note: thank you for journeying through their separate worlds, the white gold gaze, the organizing of chaos, the quiet family hopes. Your thoughts on Zeyuan's ability or Chen Lian's intuition? Share below. I read everyone.